Hi guys, it's Matt here on Oathwire. I'd like to say good evening, good morning or good afternoon wherever you are in the world, and I'd like to introduce my co-host for tonight, Robert. How are you doing, my friend?
Pretty good. Can't complain, enjoying the holiday season. Making the most of it.
Cool. Yeah, me too. I'm loving it with my COVID at the moment, so
Yeah, you might be having
Claus,
a less cheery.
Santa Claus decided to give me a nice little present, and I'm grateful that it's not too bad. I seem to suffer pretty much in the mornings, and late night I seem to be okay. So hopefully I'll be able to get through this and without coughing, spluttering all over the audio. But yeah, so we're going to be covering some Oathmark today. We're going to be covering the kingdom building and looking at all of the lesser. I think we both said that the lesser used territories, and just going into a bit of detail in there. And we're going to quickly then move on to a bit of ego for me. I wrote a military expedition style piece of campaign work for Oathmark. I did it a while ago now, and it just sort of in story into my kingdom got elsewhere, and we are going to have a look at that, and I'll lead that and just sort of see how it goes, and hopefully encourage a few more of you to write some military expeditions over while we're waiting for Joe. Fingers crossed, maybe never to write us some new ones up. But yeah, so and then we will have our silly questions and our 10 questions game as well. Okay, so we will move straight into what's new. So what's new for you? Unfortunately, Robert, you've already told me nothing's new for you, and your family are all evil and didn't buy you any new toys for Christmas.
Yes, sadly, as is the case with many of us. I'm visiting my parents, and I did not bring my. I only brought my Rangers of Shadow Deep miniatures. That's all I had room for. So there's sadly at the moment nothing new for me. Although I did get some. I finally bought some of those like little toy flies that you can get on.
Oh yeah.
Online. Because I've been using these Reaper imps for my giant flies, and they look quite silly in Rangers of Shadow Deep. So I finally have the proper thing there. That's all I got.
Yeah, no, I bought some of those. They're like 10 flies for a pound or something ridiculous like that over here. So
yeah, the smallest size I could get was a bag of 50 for like $4.
Okay. You're never gonna need any flies again, my friend.
No, I'm flied out. I can start doing armies of them for Oathwire now. And get a couple units of flies.
Because Joe uses armies of the bloody fleets. But no. Yeah. So me, what's new for me? Well, I have been continuing with my 10mm Lord of the Rings project, 10 Oathmark project basically. I've been painting that up. Been really enjoying it. It's been a bit tricky with the. I haven't got as much as I hoped to get it done. Just because I'm feeling like what's-its, and concentration levels with a thumping headache can be a bit problematic. But I'm getting there. I feel a bit better today. So hopefully I can finish off my three spear units tomorrow. So that's 60 guys in a day. Can't see that in 28mm.
Not quite.
Yeah, and then I'm going to be moving on. So they are really fun to paint. I did I got some Callistra stuff as well. So I've got some ballistas and chariots and some more wolf riders and bits and pieces. I stuck that up on YouTube as a little mini review. So,
nice.
Yeah, we're going to be glued them together. So I've got lots of bits and pieces to do. So I'm looking forward to that. That's it really. Oh, and yeah, that's it. I think that is it. So we will move on straight into our main subject tonight, which is territories, and we are on about the ones that mostly come in we are talking about the ones that come in the expansion books. So we've got them in we've got them in Battlesworn, Bane of Kings, and the Oathbreakers.
Yeah, it's mostly actually thinking about the Oathbreaker ones, just because Oathbreakers gave us so much that I feel like the extra territories kind of maybe got lost in all that a little bit, because you get the undead, which is just a whole new faction, big huge change to the game. You got legendary heroes, super cool, like very flavorful, and then also towards the end, there's a whole bunch of new territories, and they're not as flashy or shiny as the first two things. I think they may not have gotten a ton of attention, but there are definitely some gems in there. Okay. I do think they have. I do think they are relevant when considering kingdom building.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, where do you want to begin?
Well, first, I guess we probably just talk kingdom building in general, just because I know it's already been covered on Oathwire, but that was like 30 episodes ago.
It was,
and that was also like 3 books ago.
Yeah, exactly. What did they know back then? That's what I said.
Oh yeah, we're so much more advanced now. We've moved on to the sophomore level of theory. But yeah, just I think I guess this is just my thoughts. So like, I mean, I'm probably wrong on some level, but I think that city choice is probably more important now than it was at the early stages of the game. Yeah. Because in the early stages of the game, when you're just working off the base rule book, you have so much territory that you basically just end up throwing away slots on things you never use. Because like after you've filled out the first 6, it's just like, well, maybe I'll want the second giant at some point or that kind of thing. And so you're just kind of indulging yourself. Whereas now there's just like I'm looking at an army builder right now, and just in terms of options for the fourth ring, there are something like 50 or 60 options I'm looking at.
Yeah.
So like there's much more thought you need to put into it now. And that's not a bad thing. I like that actually. I like that the kingdom building is more consequential. But it does mean that you should probably give a little bit more thought to what your capital city is going to be, because that's where you're getting your prince, which is, in my opinion, one of the most important armies, or one of the most important units. That's where you're getting like your main line infantry, kind of the core of your army. Those soldiers, spearmen, and archers. They may not get songs about them, but they're the ones that hold the line and die, and they're the ones that are cheap. And if you're playing elves, that's basically all your army, because everything else is too expensive. Yeah, so what are your thoughts on that, just in terms of like where kingdom building is now as opposed to?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely the same. I mean, when I first put my first couple of armies together on the army builder, I was, I'd have that duplication. So I think my first kingdom had a giant, a white or lindworm. It had level 5, the tower. Ballistas in it, so I was, and I had a human city and bits and pieces for that. I wanted some bits and pieces, and then it was like I had nearly all the elf stuff that I thought I needed. So and now that's changed. It definitely has. I mean, Bane Kings. Do you want javelins in there? Do you want all those? Do I actually need a giant and a lindworm? Do I need, I would probably say no.
Yeah, I think it definitely, like you're saying with the monsters, because like your capital city is going to determine which monsters you can put in the 3rd ring.
Yes.
But in the 4th ring, there's just so much competition, because that's where, if you want halflings, they're going in the 4th ring. If you want like the specialty buildings from another race, they're going in the 4th ring. If you want any of the cool buildings we're about to talk about, they're likely going in the 4th ring. There's just so many cool options for the 4th ring that like the capital choice you pick is indirectly really important there. Because like if you just want a lindworm, you might consider taking elves just so you can put the lindworm in the 3rd ring where there's not as much competition.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's. I think it's changed the dynamic of that. From the basics, basically, it has changed it significantly. I've fiddled around with mine, my base country a couple of times since then, and thought, well, no, I always need. I'm an elf player. I always have to have. That's the way I am. I have to have a Fletcher in there, so Master Fletcher. I need that in my elf army. It gives me that extra 2 inches, which I'm told is very important.
Well, I mean, 2 inches doesn't seem like much on the face of it, but when you put that in the context of the elves already having a 2-inch extra range, 4 inches, that's not insignificant. You can stay outside people's ranges and snipe at them for an extra turn.
Absolutely. It means I can reach out on the first turn and really hurt somebody, with my Death Star.
Yeah, it's a 30-inch threat range.
Yeah. So from that point of view, so then I have to work out what am I going to not have. So
that's probably actually the better way of thinking about it. What am I giving up?
Yeah.
Because there's so many choices. It's more just cutting down on the things you don't need.
Yeah, and that's it. It's like, well, I suppose it's what do I want because you have to choose the dynamics of what your army to be. I think.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's helpful to kind of identify what you want your core army to be.
Yeah.
And I think like a good example of this is like in the War Corgi videos where Michael he always has those 2 units of spearmen and then those archers. That's in like probably 90% of his battle reports. He's got that set up.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like the core of his force, and that's all coming from that one territory in the city. So then he has more flexibility in the rest of his kingdom. Whereas if you wanted, say, if you're playing orcs, like for example, my orc kingdom, orc warriors are the core because I think orc warriors are one of the best infantries in the game. They're fun.
Yeah.
And so that means I have to burn a territory though to get that core. And so now I have one less territory to work with to support that core.
No, absolutely. I think, and I always have, my core. I usually have 10 elf warriors, and I have 2 batches of archers. So that's my core, and then it's what I'm going to build around that. And that may be cavalry of some flavour, depending on what I've got. Human definitely, it's probably my choice most of the time, just because it's a bit cheaper. And then it's what else do you want to bring into the army, especially if you know who you're playing and what they'd like to turn up with. That's the other thing.
You meta game a little bit. I mean, there's no shame in it. I mean, that's what real life armies do. They meta game against each other.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we know what doctrine. If you go on a massive Cold War military, that's what I played when I war gamed in the 80s and 90s, and I did Soviets, and everything was geared around in NATO about how Soviet doctrine. So because that's who you're most likely to fight. So that's what you got to do.
Yeah, no, you should. I think that's also important as well when you're kingdom building is that you should build in flexibility. So I guess so a lot of my thought in terms of like rank and flank war games is I kind of was born and bred on Warhammer Fantasy with the genre.
Okay.
And so there was a strategy article that I wrote that was written by some veteran player that really stuck with me. And so actually I kind of reproduced this for Oathwire in the Discord. If anybody ever wants to read that, it's in there. But basically just like looking at army types, like what do you want your army to accomplish? How is it going to play on the field? What are you intending to do with it?
Yeah.
When you build it, what is the goal you have in mind with it? It's like, for example, all cavalry, you have just so much mobility that you can just kind of concentrate your force, and you can move across the table so quickly. You can neutralize shooting. So there are advantages there, but there's also disadvantages. And you have low numbers, and that if they bring anti-cavalry tech, you're kind of hosed.
Yeah.
So just like having your kingdom have the flexibility to do more than one style, I think is pretty important. Not just strategically, but also like in keeping yourself entertained. Because like as much fun as it is to just like, I don't know, for example, if you just like roll up with 4 phalanxes every game, like 4 phalanxed up spearman units, that's actually probably pretty fun. They fight hard, they're reasonably cheap, you can support them. But that play style may get boring after a bit. Just kind of like slowly marching up the table.
I think if you're playing against the same player as well, you're going to get beat real soon. They're going to suss out.
They'll adapt.
They go, right, yep, you turn up with that, I'm going to hose you down like this. So, yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of when I was just learning how to play Magic the Gathering with my college friends, where that's exactly what we do. Is like someone would do something and it would work for 1 week, and then someone else would go buy a card from the shop that neutralizes it, and then you get this endless arm race. So the same thing kind of happens in Oathwire, where you can endlessly adapt against each other, and so but you can only really do that if there's flexibility built into your kingdom.
Yeah, that's definitely the key. If you I mean I tend to because I'm playing elves, I know I'm usually likely to have less points than somebody that's not playing elves. So I try to refuse a flank. Which can work. Does work. but not always.
That's as they say, the best defense is a table edge.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't move, you can't move through it.
Yeah. So, but I have to keep changing what I do in my army, because if I have to keep doing that, because the guys I'm playing against go, oh, he's got that, so he's probably going to do this, that, and the other when he does a deployment. So they're already kind of reading what I'm going to do by what I'm turning up with. So if I don't know how people do it. I usually present what army I've got before we start, so the guy knows what I'm going to be playing.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, so then they sort of see. But if I'm changing that because of my flexibility, next time I'm coming along, they're going to go, oh, right, okay, what's he going to do with it this time? So yeah.
Yeah, I like mono elves for that reason as well. Is that like most of your army is just in that city. Like the core of my elf army base is always 2 units of 20 soldiers, which is 800 points. That's not insignificant, but it's also cheap enough that at 2,000, I still have 1,200 points to spend around it. Yeah. And those 2 blocks of elf soldiers are so reliable because they can outfight most infantry. They'll outlast them through morale. They have shielding, which is better than +1 armor in my opinion. If you're comparing them to line breakers, they're faster than line breakers. I love elf soldiers. Yeah, no, it's a bit of a tangent.
I think that's the one. I'm a Warrior fan, so there you go. But yeah, elf line. I find line breakers. They use, if you can get them into attack, they're good. But they seem to attract a lot of attention. So
and they're not really built to take it.
Yeah, without that shielding, that's not great. So if you've got a champion in there with a ring of shielding and all that sort of stuff, and maybe you've got a dwarf tucking in crows and stuff. But then you're concentrating a lot of stuff on one unit as well. Then,
and then you have to take territories to get those as well. Like if I want a dwarf spellcaster to be helping out my elf line breakers, well, I got to pay the territory for Silvermine to get the line breakers, and I got to get the Hermitage to get the dwarf spellcaster, and now that's 2 territories gone for what I could do with just the soldiers.
Exactly. No, I completely agree. So, yes, flexibility is definitely key to this. I mean, if you're doing pickup games, it doesn't matter so much.
Oh yeah, no, that's important.
This is what I'm going to play with, and it fits in a kingdom. But if you're in a campaign, 100%, you need to have that in there. So,
the kingdom building, it's so much fun now. It's almost like a puzzle to me, and just like, how much can I get in here? How can I get in all the things I want? And I have endlessly reworked my elf kingdom, and I always end up at almost an identical point. It's almost always the same thing that I end up with. But just the thought process of just thinking through all these cool options I have, it's a lot of fun. It's a kind of a game in and of itself.
Yeah, no, it is, especially if you've got you've got a couple of friends that you're playing with. It's like, what are you doing then? And they're like, yeah, you'll find out. and so you're then sitting there trying to guess what they're going to do. You know what models they got, or they go and buy new ones and ruin your holiday. I think. So.
Yeah, something up their sleeves.
You're not allowed to buy new stuff.
Yeah. So in terms of those, what we were talking about earlier, with kind of like the lesser known territories. So the ones specifically I was thinking of are the I don't know if there's like a good succinct name for these territories. I guess you could say like the Academy territories. Yes. Where it rewards you for taking a legendary hero. It gives you extra points if you do. Yeah. And it also gives them extra experience, which can be relevant over the course of the campaign. Get that second heroic ability faster. But
you got the academia and the academy. Sorry, I can't say words, but yeah.
There's 3 of them. So there's military academy, collegium, and then training grounds. Yes. And they're each tied to a different ability. Yeah. So training grounds is tied to champion, the ability. Military academy is tied to command. Yes. And then collegium is tied to spellcasting.
That's right.
And then if you have a corresponding legendary figure, so if I have the collegium and I have a legendary spellcaster in my army, I get 2% extra points. Yep. Which at 2K, I mean 2% doesn't sound like a lot on its face, but it's 40 extra points. Yeah. And legendary heroes only cost 30 points to get. Yeah. So if you have that legendary hero in the collegium, you actually get an extra 10 points, which again doesn't sound like much, but 10 points can be the difference between fitting in a good unit and fitting in a mediocre one.
I agree. No, I completely agree. I think, and it gives you that. It gives you that ability to actually or stack something extra in with with that champion or that commander or that mage. You can give them a weapon or a new ring of spell casting or something like that, just to give them that you might not have been able to do because of the costing. So
it's a pretty important building.
Yeah, I like it. I've got we're doing it slightly different. So I captured a military academy, which was really useful for me. So I got an army that uses that. So it gives me those extra points. And we're actually playing 3,000 point games. So
so it's even more relevant to you guys.
So that gives me quite a big chunk of change.
60 points. That's 5 archers. And I think just like the free legendary here was not to be underestimated either. Like a free legendary ability is pretty sweet. That can swing games. Like I think my favorite legendary ability right now is Signal Horn, the one that just gives you the one-time 14-inch command bubble for commanding another unit. Just that can be heavy cavalry swinging into the flanks when they're not expected to. Like there's so many cool things you can do with that.
Oh, yeah.
And like your opponent has to account for you having that. And so by expending a territory to get to use the slot, basically to get the building, you're giving yourself a slight advantage in the game. And so that may be more valuable to some kingdoms than an extra unit choice.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's gives you just so many different options in there. The heroic abilities, we just started using them in our games, and we hadn't really used them before, and they can swing battles easily. So it's definitely.
They make the guy, or they make the leader feel more like an individual too, because they have their special cool thing they do. Sets them apart from the rank and file.
Yeah, no, and it depends how you play it. I mean, sometimes I've put my, it's like I'll put my prince in the back, with a load of guys. Well, actually, if you put him at the back, so you can run up and down and do a bit of bits and pieces, and you got that ring of the sector. You're not worrying about the unit moving away to do the attacking, so it gives you all that. It gives you got that flexibility of command as well, and you can always spend a couple of points on giving him a couple of guys to do as a bodyguard to soak up some arrows or something. So or a fireball. If somebody decides to go fireball hunting for your commander.
I do like putting the prince just in, I like kind of having like 3 main line units, at least 3 infantry units, and then just having the prince in the middle one. It just feels, it's such a basic formation, but it's so flexible. And you can always, and if they don't have aimed fire, you can always sneak the side units up like an inch farther so that they're the ones that are getting shot.
Yeah, no, I usually have aimed fire, so.
Yeah, oh well, yeah, elves, you get spoiled because the archers get aimed fire and fire over.
Yeah. So it's definitely a way forward with elves. If you're not using that spell, make sure you are. Spell? Sorry, my brain is befuddled. If you're not using that ability, you need to. So being able to pick your targets is very important.
You mentioned already one of the other kind of cool little territories in here, Master Fletchers. Which yes. I think Master Fletchers honestly is probably only really relevant for elves. Because if going from 22 to 24 when everyone else is at 20 is more significant than going from 20 to 22.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's much more fiddly with just the 2-inch advantage.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't bring anything much to like your catapult or anything like that. It's not going to
Yeah, going from 48 to 50 on the big catapult, that's not a game changer.
No, it's not completely at all. So I think it's definitely very important to have those. I wouldn't use it on the humans. I mean, if you've got humans in your army and you happen to pick,
if you haven't already,
yeah. But it's not something. If I was a dwarf player, I wouldn't be looking to use that. So definitely not. Even if I've got using a catapult from the dwarfs, that's my range stuff there. Bow is bow, isn't it? So if you're playing. You probably haven't got tons of bow if you're playing dwarf. I wouldn't have thought. Then maybe I'm wrong.
You can always bump your halfling archers up to normal, I guess too. But
yeah.
This only really feels worth it on elves. just because of the way of like how the deployment in the game works, and that you're deploying long ways, so that it's a 4 foot wide. There's 4 feet between the edge of your table edge and the edge of your opponent's table edge, and then you're deploying onto that. So getting an extra 4 inches total on your elf bows basically gives you an extra round of shooting in that context.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I don't know if that made sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, absolutely. Does it make sense? I hope it made sense.
It made sense to me.
Yeah, and everybody else. It made sense to me, my friend. So.
If we're not making sense, I'm gonna blame it on Matt's brain fog.
Absolutely, that's what I would be definitely blaming it on, because that's what I'm going to be blaming it on for sure.
We have a mulligan this episode, so don't write us any letters.
But yeah, so and then we've got obviously you've got some other ones, bits and pieces.
Mm-hmm. Some of them are admittedly less useful.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm never going to take the temple or the memorial gardens.
The memorial gardens.
If you have a slot to burn, I mean, I guess it's not literally nothing, but like in terms of all the options you have, like it may as well be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then you got the precious metal mines. It's 15 points less for 1 magic item.
I kind of like that actually, but only in the context if you're already taking like the academy, and this would be in like a mono race kingdom where you have more slots to burn. Like, because if you're just humans or whatever, like you get most of your army in like 3 or 4 terrain picks, and then you have like 6 to burn.
Yeah.
If you're taking the academy and this, you're basically paying for a ring of spellcasting. Because that extra 10 points from the academy after you pay legendary plus the 15 points from this, that gives you 25 out of the 30 for a ring of spellcasting. So it's essentially giving you an extra spell in that context.
Yeah.
But I would like you said. I do agree. I wouldn't get this outside of that. It's not enough outside of that.
No. If the one I would say that's minor here is if I was playing like a Goblin Orc army and that was at my core. The Circle of Oath Marks, I definitely think I might consider taking that in my kingdom.
Actually, I was going to say that's not a bad one. It's like, it's not going to happen every game, but that's not insignificant. That's like, what are the odds? Actually, we should probably calculate that out. So if you're the defender in a deep striker invasion, which I guess, I don't know if we can easily calculate this on the spot, but that's going to happen a significant percentage of the time.
Yeah,
it's not every game, but maybe like 1 in 3, 1 in 4.
Especially if you're putting the river crossing to one side.
Oh yeah, because we all know the defender needs an extra boost at river crossing, right?
But so I think it's quite a little handy one if you're worried about that happening and having that for your for those guys, and even if you had like put a mix with some humans in it, so you want or some of the monsters, Because by turn 3 and 4, you probably might be getting into some combat. You certainly be receiving archery if you're fighting elves or dwarves with catapults and stuff. So that +1 for those guys is quite handy, I think.
That is a big deal, yeah. That also helps insulate you against horrific, which otherwise can just maul you. So yeah, I think that's not a bad choice at all. Yeah, if you're one of the armies that suffers from morale.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the other territory that's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go on. Oh,
I was just going to say that there's one more territory that's formulated like that where it only applies like some of the time. That's the Enchanted Blade.
Yes.
Which I also kind of like this one actually. Which is because this does 2 things. So if you are the defender in a deep strike, invasion, or border strike. So here it's 3 scenarios. This is even more of the time. This is approaching half of your games you play. Basically, when you're the defender in these scenarios. All of your spellcasters get 1 additional spell, and they get +1 to cast spells the first 2 turns of the game. So those first 2 turns of the game, I actually think are really important for spellcasters because that's usually when you're getting buffs off.
Yes.
Because you don't need to really fireball anything unless they've left like a catapult open or something. So it's more important that you're getting fleet feet on those guys, or that you're getting the extra armor, or the extra fighting ability, or whatever buff spell you're getting off. So this is not only letting you get an additional spell, it's making it more likely that you're going to get those important buff spells off at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
And again, this is approaching half the games you're going to play. You're going to get this bonus in.
Yeah,
so this is not a bad territory at all.
Yeah, and if you play like my friend does, he always usually has minimum of two wizards in his. So he's getting 2 extra spells there. So that's very tasty. So
and those level 2s, they love that +1.
Yeah, they do.
That +1 is a big deal in those level 2s. I will admit, I like to have the 2 level 2s set up. I find that's pretty efficient.
Yeah, no, it is. It's good. Yeah, I'm a 1 mage man, so.
Well, with elves, it's a little.
Yeah.
the price tag adds a
bit of that, and then charge. So yeah, and then you've got the unique territories in there, which, to be honest, you don't pick when you're making up your temp.
Oh yeah, you have to earn these.
Yeah. So but yeah, so yeah, that's most of the ones out of Oath. That is all the ones out of Oathbreakers, and then obviously you got the Bane of Kings, where we've got all the new flavors. So you got you got the different sort of tactics, I would call them.
Yeah, the formation territories.
Yeah, the formations.
I think those are important as well. I wouldn't try and get more than 1 in a kingdom, just because if you're forcing in 2, you're starting to reach the point where you're just limiting the options. Because you should also have options for monsters and units beyond what comes in the city, like cavalry or heavy infantry, all those important options. So I wouldn't take more than 1 in a kingdom, but they can make a big difference.
Yeah, no,
I think the best one, in my opinion, is probably the Phalanx one.
Okay.
Just because getting +1 fight on Spearmen is actually like a pretty big deal.
Yeah. And
like the nominal downside is that you fight worse to the side, but I don't know if you've played Oathmark before, but you already kind of fight badly to the side. Yeah. So fighting worse in a situation where you're already losing isn't really that big of a penalty to me.
You're already having a bad day if you're getting walloped in the side. Let's be honest.
It's just
if you survive that, it's like, well, that unit's gonna sit around to stop hitting any other units in the flank for a while. So
just like instead of killing 1 guy, now you're killing 0 guys when they attack you in the side, and it's like that's not that big of a penalty to me. Whereas getting the +1 fight, well, now your spearmen are fighting like line breakers, but what do they have that line breakers don't? Well, they're move 6 and they have shielding, and so you kind of get better line breakers. And so I really like Phalanx. It's super cool with elves.
That brace as well, haven't you? So
yeah.
Did you say that? Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's super cool with elves, because elf spearmen with that are actually kind of nasty. So 24 points, you're getting a fight 4 spearmen.
Yeah, and you haven't added any ranks in there yet either. So.
Full ranks. That's +7.
That's just an ugly looking.
You're in the double wound territory.
That is an ugly looking unit. So, but yeah, no.
Imagine having 2 of those, 480 points apiece. I mean, that's half your army at 2 fate, but that is quite the core. No one wants to tingle with that.
You'd be like, but yeah, it could be broken. But if you turn up with it, actually, I know I'm going to be. Well, I've got COVID, so I don't know when we'll be playing next. So I won't mention what I'm going to time I play again. So, but yeah,
I have tried the double elf Phalanx, and I enjoyed it.
Okay.
I used cheap monsters. I didn't bring the Death Star, obviously. And for listeners at home, when we say Death Star, we're talking about like the max elf archer unit that just shreds everything.
Yeah.
I didn't bring that because I didn't have points for it. But like if you just fill in cheap monsters around that, you get a pretty effective army.
Yeah. No, I mean you stick some spiders, and that's what I mean.
5-man units.
I put bits of stuff out on the flanks just to hold up the guys. Well, the main units go in and chew up the middle. And your opponent goes.
Actually, that's a good point. Actually, with the spiders, that was like the one other thing I wanted to say about kingdoms is that you should prioritize things that give you options.
Yes.
And the spider territory is, I think, one of the best territories in the game, just because it gives you 2 very different options. You can take 6 spiders, or you can take 6 wolvers, and they do such different things.
They do.
That feels like you're really getting 2 territories in one. And obviously, you can't take both at the same time. So there's that limitation, but as territories go, that's a pretty good feeling one to have.
Yeah, I mean, when I first, my first list, when there was I only had the 1 book. I had 6 wolvers and I had 6 spiders. So I thought that's definitely an option I could be using. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and you could also just bring 12 spiders and 12 wolvers if you really wanted to. You got 2 of them.
Can you 3? Yes, you can.
Yeah, if you take it twice, you get a.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be 12 wolvers. Now I'm interested.
That's almost 1,000 points, but man, that's basically all cavalry because you got the speed, you got the hitting, you got regeneration,
rejuvenation. You've got all of the little bonuses that come with that. That'd be quite a powerful, nasty little army. I'm just sitting there. How many werewolves do I have? I think I've got 10. So
oh, you're close.
Yeah. I could print another 2, and I'm sorted. Yeah, no, I've got 10. I've got 10 werewolves type because I bought some metal guys from somebody at Salute. So yeah, I'm going to try that experiment in an army for a pickup game.
Let's know how it goes. Yeah.
I go, well, I got 12 wolvers, and then they go, what? And two lots of this, 12
spiders would be kind of interesting too, just because that's actually not that expensive. Because spiders are 48 each, right? So it's like 150-ish for 3. So 600 points for 12 spiders. Like 550 points for 12 spiders, where that ends up being. That's not a bad deal.
No, that's also good too. And if you when I bought my spiders, I was going to go. I was like, I didn't have a lot of money at the time, and I'm in an R and about whether to buy the gigantic Atlantic War. Atlantis miniature.
War Games Atlantic ones, yeah.
War Games Atlantic, blah blah blah, something in English. And I was like 25 quid, and I actually ended up buying some off of eBay again. So I bought a load of cheap plastic spiders for a couple of quid each for a bag of 5, I think, in each one. And so I put them on some bases, added some paint, dry brushed them, and they look all right, to be honest.
Those toys, you can if they just have like a minimum of detail, they end up looking okay.
I put some red stripes on them and pieces. And I painted up some metal ones with my friend. I painted them up for him, and he was really happy with them. And they look really nice, but they were like 20 quid, and I was like, for 5, they were all metal. And I'm like, I spent 4 quid on 10. So
that's not a bad deal, yeah. I've been using the Reaper ones, like the $3 ones that are like as big as your palm.
Yeah, I suppose it depends what you want to do. I mean, I used the bases and sort of made a little vinaigrette. I make salad dressing for them.
Vignette dressing.
My brain sometimes at the moment it's just English and me at the moment is struggling with this COVID. But but vignettes. Like a little diorama on a base. So I did that. But yeah, I still use them. I've got no shame. Could I go and buy some more? Yeah, I could go and print some as well now, but I'm not going to because I've done them. So what's the point? But
there you go.
So yeah, there's all those options. So javelin is. Can we go back? Javelin. I like javelin. If I foresee my dwarves being javelin. So
I could see that. I don't like that you don't get to choose when you use it. I would have preferred that you just get like a little token or something. And then you expend it on the charge of your choice. Yeah. But that doesn't mean it's bad. That's just like in a vacuum. I would have liked.
I think I'm going to try that out with my dwarves. I know Michael uses skirmish a lot with his guys. I haven't used it yet, to be honest. To be honest, I think from a point of view of using, because I'm predominantly playing elves, it's just not. It's paying extra points for rangers or archers to do that. I don't see the point. Yeah. But having humans do it, I definitely can see the point on that.
The best shielding in the game is putting them behind another unit. I get you. Skirmish has not been one of the more attractive ones to me, but I see why people take it and use it. It's just I would rather, if I'm playing archers, I would rather have them behind. Yeah. And if I'm playing rangers, it's in little 5-man units that are going to die anyway, so I don't super care if they have shielding or not. But I definitely see where it is useful. Like you get so much flexibility with moving them.
Yeah, I think the discussion there I had with Michael was actually on the next Oathwire that's coming up. Actually, that we released.
Oh, nice.
On the 3rd.
He's definitely used it way more than anyone else I've seen. So I do want to hear his thoughts on it. I'm thinking is like having a lot of units of 5
you can with that you get more actions, you get more activations, you can sort of outdo the enemy, and you might lose a few of those, but actually you can afford to lose a 5-man unit instead of a 15-man unit, that sort of thing, and it sort of sucks up because I can only fire at a 5-man unit while the other two lots of 5 men are doing something else. So with my Death Star, and I kind of get that. I don't know that that's how I would play, but I can see their point of view, and he uses that skirmishers to put those units out there to give options, because I'm like, well, I'm going to have to shoot those skirmishers, especially if I'm not an elf, because I've got to shoot at the closest target, my archers. So I'm going to try. So I'm not going to be hitting anything else while they're running up forward. So I think there's a use for them. With my army, I haven't used it yet.
Yeah, I guess the thing that makes me leery to use it is that you lose aimed fire.
Yeah.
Because I would be taking it on rangers, and like without aimed fire, I don't know that I would take rangers to begin with, because that's like kind of why I take rangers in a non-elf, like in a human army. I'm taking rangers so that I have these little surgical units that can like force morale checks where I need them. And so if you're losing that ability, that's what makes it kind of questionable to me. But again, I haven't played with skirmish.
No.
This is just kind of theory on my end. So I'm definitely interested to hear what Michael has to say.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same. I haven't used it either, so I'm coming from a point of theory, not actual practice. So I'm sure there's guys out there that's used it, and be sitting there going, "Yeah, but you're wrong, Matt," and Robert, you're both wrong. But yeah, so we probably are, guys. We don't know. I've only been playing this game as long as it's for a year, less than a year coming up. So. What do I know?
As far as like quote unquote experts go, we still have a lot to learn about this game.
Absolutely, yeah. But so then we move on to is there anything else that jumps out at you? Square for me. Can't see.
No, yes, square is missed. Shield wall I think is useful for dwarves. If you're not dwarves, just take warriors.
Yeah. I think it's shield walls just says I am a dwarf.
Yeah. I guess if you want to take shield wall, just play dwarves, and then you can take shield wall, and then you have defense. What do you end up with? Defense 12 on your warriors?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
But I guess my final. Oh, sorry. Go
ahead. So if you've got the ranks, you're not going to be so worried about that -1, and you can do other things, spells and all sorts of stuff to mitigate that as well. So.
And yeah, if you're taking shield wall, your intention for them is probably just to be a brick. Just to hold the forward, or just make it so that put them somewhere they have to be dealt with, and then they won't ever die.
Absolutely.
But I was just going to say real quick, my final thought in kingdom building, just because we probably have to move on to the next bit, is try not to take duplicate choices. Like if you really like ogres and trolls and animate statues, you should probably choose between one of them and not try and take all three.
Yeah.
Because you're getting such a diminishing return there. Like you could be taking Indrix and get a completely different style of unit, or you could be taking cavalry or whatever in those slots. So just make sure that you are not wasting slots and units that do the same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's the one that's left in there that we haven't covered, Bane King, the chariots. Chariots weren't Dark Age.
Oh yeah. I actually think the chariot formation has some potential, just in that it's an oddly hard unit to kill. I would think. It's the defense 13 with 6 wounds, but I think chariots are best when you have a champion riding them, because then you get shielding, which is really important with making them unkillable. Is that 13 defense and 3 wounds? You can still get around that by getting lucky on dice, but with shielding, that makes that less likely. And then with the champion die, it makes the wild charge more significant. And so the chariot track could work, but I think it de-emphasizes. You can't really use it when chariots are at their best, which is when it's a champion riding and you use it to like crash into a flank or something.
Absolutely. But yeah, I'm using chariots in my 10 mil army, but you will not see me using them in my 28 mil, because unless I've got a Revenant undead army, because they're from the back in the day, whereas Dark Ages they didn't use chariots.
Yeah, more of from an Iron Age classical
It is,
kind of
but
thing. But well, it's everyone's game at the end of the day. If you want to use chariots, use them. If you don't.
absolutely, I'll get over
Joe
it.
is not going to lose sleep either way.
No. Lots of people wanted chariots, so lots of people want everything. But I think it brings a new dynamic to the game. And there's nothing bad.
I'm personally really glad they happened, just because I have 4 of those old metal Dark Elf chariots that were just kind of gathering dust, and now I can try and make the max chariot army work.
Yeah. Well, with my undead army, I'm definitely going to be looking at that. But my Project One undead army is only 9-star models, so if they haven't got one, they won't have one. I don't know if they've got a chariot. I'll have to have a look. But I know,
that's a good question.
I do know they're working on one. I do know that. So,
yeah, chariot kit would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I know they're working on it. So.
Well, are you ready to move on to your, as you called it, your ego?
Yeah. Let's move to me, and it's all about me. My favourite subject, as many people that know me will know. So yeah, we're going to look at something I wrote quite a while ago in the scheme of Oathwire and me being in part of this at the beginning of my voyage in Oathwire and Oathmark. I wrote a military expedition that covers my birth of my first nation, called Oathwire, which is on the island of Mist, which is where we play our campaign with my friends, and it's interlinked back into the wars of Etana with Michael and Chris, and they were playing that. So my elves are actually my king is the prince, was once a prince of Cardigan. So
oh, nice.
Yeah.
So you're telling us is that this is canonical?
Yes, absolutely. So I had great joy. I asked when back in the day. I said, "Oh, excuse me, sirs." This is obviously before I knew them and properly. I said, "Is it all right if I stick myself onto your history as well?" And they were like, "Yeah." So that was like super exciting. So what I thought I'd do is, after I'd written up my massive sort of backstory for the my nation, is then go ahead and write an expo to just fight the game. So I wrote 3 scenarios up, all a little bit different for people to play. I don't know if anybody has. I know I've played them. I don't know if anybody else has played them out there. It'd be nice to think that somebody has, but I won't lose sleep if you haven't, guys. But take a look and have a listen. There's some caveats I would suggest, and which you'll listen to in a minute if you're going to go and play it. You might need to make some tweaks on the last scenario. So let's go to the first scenario. So that is an ambush. So basically, on the long march, the Elf King sent after some troops to call back the prince back to the palace, because he did a runner and he took a load of people with him to do this runner, to say basically necromancy is bad and we don't have anything to do with it, because they had got into bed with the necromancer of Pembroke. So in there you've got if you're the elves, you start off in the middle of the table. I've done a nice little map on there. I think I did them in Incarnate, just sets you out, and you've got your forces laid out in the middle, and you're getting ambushed. And your job is to get the prince off the table, and that's the key. It's getting the prince off the table. So you have to do that within for the game. It doesn't matter how many casualties that your guys take. It's all about getting him off. So yeah, that's the first one. I don't know what you've had a look at that and what your thoughts on there.
Oh yeah, first off, I want to say the map is very helpful. Just being able to visualize the setup, because I don't know if it's just me, but sometimes I'll read a paragraph of setup information and my mind glazes over. I have to read it like 3 or 4 times to try and visualize it. And so having that map set up is very helpful. And I do like that this is asymmetric. It kind of adds an interesting element where one side only has the single objective, which is to capture the prince. And so to compensate for having that very singular objective, they get fewer points, but they also get to act first.
Yes.
If I'm reading the special rules correctly. And so the prince's side is larger, but they're also caught unawares, and then they have to actually physically get the prince off the table, where the other guys just have to attack the prince and take him out.
Yep.
Do 3 wounds to him. And so I think this does have an interesting dynamic. It's not going to play out like a standard Oathmark game. I think it's going to play a lot more desperately, because there's going to, wherever the prince is, that's where the battle's going to be.
Yes. Yeah.
So this could be quite the bloodbath.
Yeah. No. We when we played this, me and my mate played this. It was really down to the wire stuff, actually, because I took a. I mean, my little thing was I took a level 2 mage with me as well, and I gave him glamour to try and get him off the edge of the table by glamoring him to the edge of the table, which sounds in practice very good, but when you got a level 2 mage and you're trying to glamour,
that's rough. Yeah.
Yeah. It is tricky, and you've got to, you've got to get it done. And I think obviously I told my opponent what spells I had, and he definitely tried to block my line of sight to the edges as well, where he could. So, but it went right down to the wire, and as you said, I was chucking bodies at it just to try and stop him getting to the point where he could take my prince, and it did. I got off, but I got off on the last turn, and that was
there you go.
Yeah, but that was because I got glamour off. So all of those turns, and out of all of those turns, it was glamour that got me off. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to do it. And I was trying to get off, but I was at the same time obviously trying to defend Prince so that he didn't get captured. But yeah, it's quite a good game. It wasn't. It was a fast game as well. You could play it quick enough. So
yeah, just not that many total points. I do like that you put a cap on 15 figures for the scenario and units, because that kind of helps out the team attacking the prince a little bit, because you don't have that 20-man brick of like a blade of wounds for the prince. Like you have fewer wounds you have to chew through to actually get to them. Yeah. So I do like that as an emphasis, and it kind of makes sense that this is just like this army was just kind of like quick marching out, right? Like they're not really set up to fight yet.
No,
that's okay. Yeah. Kind of makes sense that
an army on the run. So yeah.
And then there is an outcome for this as well. So like it'll in the fashion of all good military expeditions, like each battle result will affect the next one.
Yeah.
So the outcome for this is the winner of the battle will get initiative for the next one, and they can make them set up all the opponent set up all their forces first, which is a big deal.
It is.
Making someone else set up first is so nice.
It is. You can just it's super useful. It did give me a significant sort of advantage. I think maybe I don't know. It wasn't massive, but it gave me a sort of where I wanted to balance, and because you move into the scenario. Then scenario 2 is an all cavalry battle. The story is the prince's cousin turns up with some of the royal sort of cavalry, but some of the other royal cavalry is sitting offline. So it's 2 basic blocks of cav just charging the wotsits out of each other. So if you like cavalry, you will love this game. But it gave me that sort of idea of what was I gonna do with that. So. And because I got the prince off, I was able to sort of predict where he had everything, and then I could set up slightly off and do my battle plan. Because he's got the guy that's setting up first has got to spread his army out. He can't concentrate it. Be a brave man if you did concentrate it, because I could just come off to your flank and do it. But
I do like that there are two things built into the scenario that make that so it's not like an overpowering advantage. Because normally making someone set up their laundry first gives you a really strong advantage. Because you can just counter whatever they're doing. You can set your army up optimally, and whereas they're setting up with no knowledge of what you're going to do. But there's kind of two things here that mitigate that and make it so that it's still significant, but it's not as like crushing as it might be. The first is that, like you're saying, everything is cavalry, so you can just kind of redeploy on the first turn if you're that badly off. You can just kind of shuffle things around because everything is movement 8, so you're fine. You can just have to take a turn off to get into ideal formation. And then the other thing is the special rule for this scenario, which I really like this one because this adds like a ticking clock for both sides.
Yes.
Which is that so each side can keep a unit of cavalry off the table as reinforcements.
Yes.
And then you roll a die, and then if you get the right number, basically the cavalry unit comes in, and then the table edge they come in on is depending on which side you're playing. But each unit has this cavalry unit in reserve, and then so you want to make sure you're ending the battle before they're getting it. But there's also the risk that they don't come on when you need them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
So there's a really interesting dynamic there. I like that quite a bit.
Yeah, when we played it, I actually got my unit on, and I had a unit of elf rangers on horseback as my reserve, and they came on behind his units, so which was super useful actually. And he didn't get his on, so
there you go.
Yeah, and the Rangers started really sort of walloping him. So from the front, he bled away very quickly once that happened. So it's very. I mean, it didn't necessarily mean that that's what is going to happen. As soon as it's just happened that I turned up on the right side, and there was some good bits and pieces, luck in my side for it. But yeah, he vanished. But when those blocks of cavalry are hitting each other, the game is bloody and it's quick. I tell you now.
I can imagine, yeah. Fight 6 for a lot of them on the charge. Ooh, that was nasty.
So it's a lot of what we were doing is a lot of manoeuvring to try and see who could get the charge in first. So,
yeah, that's the dance with cavalry, right? Is these first 2 turns you're just kind of dancing around each other, trying to get that optimal position, see who blinks first.
Yeah, the historical gamer in me is sitting there thinking, oh yeah, but surely if I'm cavalry, I would countercharge, so we'd hit each other at the same time, blah 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 blah. But this is not historical.
No, don't you understand? When the other side is charging you, you just stand there and watch. You gotta wait. You gotta wait for your turn.
Exactly. I'm like, it brings
it's an abstraction
narrative to it, doesn't it? You're always a little bit more circumspect about it. So no, I liked it. So yeah, it's a cracking great. I mean, personally, I know I wrote it, but I think it's a great idea if you've not played an all cavalry battle, and you can mix it. You know, what I've done with this is you can put whatever you want. We had Revenant Cavalry. That's what we had. Revenant Cavalry versus Elf Cavalry. So yeah, that was good. It's about similar price break as well. But if you wanted to do, a load of goblin wolf riders versus human cav, or vice versa or whatever, you can do all of that as well. I know Giles over Ilford Wargame Club's got something like 100 goblin wolf riders, so that'd be a cracking game to bounce each other off of. So that'd be cool. And then we move to, you get the advantage again for the last battle, depending on what you win there. The last battle is basically a defense of a hilltop, and
aptly named the Last Stand.
It is. So basically, what happened here is the army of the dead is on the march, and it's marching up the hill. You can't get away. It doesn't need to sleep. So when you've got civilians in your marching line, in your column, all these women, children, when you're trying to flee, you're not the fast. No military convoy is fast. So you're moving as fast as you can. An elf can move fast. There's no dwarf or halfling column. But what you're not doing is you are having to rest those people. So you are stopping. Because the undead don't stop. They don't need to have
They don't need to stop for anything to eat. They don't need to stop for a cup of tea. Their feet are sore. They fall off and they carry on walking. So
Yep. Don't tape it back on.
exactly. So they are coming, and basically it's the last stand of the units. They know they're all going to get zonked, and it's how you do that. So there's like an inevitable amount of troops marching up the hill. So it's more of a can you hold them off for so many turns, so many hours, so your column the main column can escape. So you're playing up the table. There's some defences in there, some woods in there, and bits and pieces. Sort of follows the story. So
nice.
My only criticism of my own scenario is the defender just kind of sits there.
Yeah.
And it's waiting. You can sit there and wait, and for the enemy to come up, skeletons or not, which is what my friend was marching up against archers. You can still do damage, but you are just sitting there. And I don't think. I think there's something needs to change in the dynamic of the scenario to get the undead further up into the table, maybe with a few units. So it's more streaming on. So
okay.
I don't know. There's something needs to change because, just half his units didn't even get contact. So by the end of the game, so that was the problem. And I was trying to do a bit different defense in depth. So maybe the elves should have to deploy a lot closer to the table edge, and then you divide the table up into maybe fourths, or something like that, or into thirds. So there's 2 foot, 2 foot, 2 foot, and they have to be deployed on the 2 foot line. But you're only allowed to put 500 points in, and then so many are there, and so that
the rest have to catch up.
Yeah, so there is some fighting going on, and that sort of thing. I don't know, but yeah.
You could try something like in the second scenario where maybe the undead could put a unit or two in reserve, and then there's a random chance they show up behind the elves.
Oh, that's not bad idea. Yeah,
because that adds a little bit of a risk for the elves as well, is that you can't just completely ignore what's happening behind you because skeletons might pop up.
Yeah, no, that's a really good idea actually. I like that. So, but yeah, I won the whole game. So that was mostly I won that last one because we just I put the turn limit on there, and it's like, and we could have carried on, so he could have carried on, but you're like, wow, turn 10, 11, 12, it's you're going up 6 foot table to get off the table sort of thing, so not as easy.
Yeah, that kind of defensive entrenched scenario, I think Oathmark maybe struggles a little bit to pull that off, just with how it's set up. Excuse me.
Yeah, I think that's.
I think it definitely can be done. It's you have to fine tune it. You can't because you can swing too far one way and it's an overwhelming amount of force that you can't even defend against, or you can swing too far the other way where you're kind of describing where the defenders just kind of sit there, twiddle their thumbs, pick off some skeletons, and then kind of win by default.
Yeah, I think that's where obviously where the river crossing scenario is in that sort of sense. Because it just rushes up and stops.
Have I ever told you my fix for the river?
No.
Is you get both sides of the same objective. It's whoever gets more points across to the other side. So if both armies are trying to cross, it's a lot more interesting.
Ah, okay.
Because you can't just kind of camp your side. You have to act. The fords become a lot more important too, because you have to actively contest and try and get across. So it becomes much more interesting.
Yeah, there was a chap, another guy from the UK who sent. He was going to come to the UK. Got his name. Lives up near Nottingham. So if you do listen to this, super apologies for forgetting your name. I would like this. I blame it on old age, COVID, and actually I'm really busy and sometimes I just forget stuff. So I'm super rude. He sent me a load of stuff for us to play test, and he's done something with the River campaign as well. So
there's a lot of proposed fixes.
Yeah,
I like just giving them the same objective just because it's simple and you don't actually have to change any of the rules are set up. It's just now you're both just trying to get across the river.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm up for something that. For me, it's you need different points values and, but I don't know. I would start the river probably, if you can defend it, in the first third of the table of the attacker. So they get to it a lot quicker than the defender. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think like a point difference could also make a difference because you have such an advantage as the defender in that scenario. It's so stacked for you.
Yeah.
Like if you have 25 or 33% less points or whatever, like I still think you could win.
Yeah. I mean,
without much trouble.
Even with a goblin, an orc army, you just buy 2 bloody catapults. That's gonna, starts smashing the bits and pieces up straight away. As they're trying to cross the bridge. Archers.
You don't ever have to move your army, so they're always going to be in command bubble either. Command bubble 2, which removes the downside of the work. And the biggest defense I've seen of the river crossing scenario as written just basically boils down to be smarter than your opponent, and that's great advice, but that also doesn't really mean anything. Like if your way to win is just be smarter than the other guy, that's not especially helpful.
Right.
So I do think the river scenario is maybe the one that the only one in the book that maybe needs a little tweaking, because I love all the rest of them.
Yeah,
it's just that one needs.
I think it's
maybe the oath marks.
I don't think it's broken. It's just frustrating as what's it.
Yeah, it's not the best play experience, which I think is more relevant than maybe whether it's broken or not.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I guess we kind of went on a tangent there, but that's fine.
No. Tangents. We do tangents. Let's be honest. So I think So have a look, guys. If you're not interested, don't have a look. But let me know if you think you need it.
Where can they find this?
It's in the file section on Facebook. If you go and have a look under there. But what I will do is I will also put a link down to it under Apple, SoundCloud, and YouTube, so they can go and find. And I'll pop it in the Discord when I put the episode up to advertise that it's been put up. But go and have a look. Or don't. What'd be great is if some guys out there, if you've got time, just write up your own little military expedition, because it'd be great to see some other stuff out there. I'm sure there's lots of people willing to try it. And if there isn't, at least you've done it. I will give it a go. And so not that that's any source of material. Just I will give you some feedback.
Yeah, I was gonna say I really like that you did this as like a historical chronicle. Like this is a story from the history of your kingdom. That's a cool idea. Because the military expeditions that we have, unless I'm misremembering, they're more just like this cool thing is available and you're competing to get there first. Whereas I like this is something that's already happened in the past. Like you're just recreating it. That's cool. It opens up a lot of design space for writing it. You can write the great stories of your kingdom's past and then play them.
Yeah, no, I think there's some scope there. Not that I've got time to do it. To do like a pack that would help you learn the game as well. So you start off
like a tutorial missions.
Points, do 1,000, do 1,500 or something like that. So you ramp up the points for the players so they can get it painted and they have a little. I mean, I think there's some scope there for that because I think that. I mean, I don't know.
That'd be cool.
How you learnt the rules, but we got 500 points out of stuff that, and we started playing and tried to do the rules. I think that's a great little intro into the thing. So I think there's some scope definitely out there for somebody to pick that up. If you guys want to do that, that'd be fantastic. And
yeah, that would be an awesome mission. Actually, for anybody listening, write that up.
Yeah, absolutely. I just noticed we've actually got 4,000 community members on the Facebook page as of today. I noticed that's burst through that bubble. I'm an admin on there, so I just happened. So that's kind of cool. So we are still a growing community. So things like that will only help grow the community.
Yeah, 4K. That's an awesome threshold.
Yeah, definitely. So we are going to move on to the 10. Okay, guys, so we're going to get 10 questions. I'm going to ask them all straight from Oathbreakers. So I'm sure we've done that before, but he's not been introduced. So we are going to start with first question. I'll press start in a second. Okay, go. Graveyard. What infantry unit am I getting?
Graveyard. Is this the Cursed burial ground or a graveyard?
Graveyard.
Oh man, is it I'm blanking. Graveyard would be one of the skeleton units. It's not. Tomb is the catapult, so it's not that one. It's it's ghouls.
Yes.
Right.
Mausoleum. What do I get in the mausoleum?
The mausoleum, you get revenants, don't you?
You get Revenant. What though?
Oh, mausoleum, you get Revenant Cavalry.
Chariots. Unfortunately, and one skeleton.
Chariot. Dang it.
Okay.
I'm rusty.
Revenant General is on what base size?
The Revenant General would be on a 25x25 unless you upgrade him to be on a chariot, in which case it'd be 50x100.
Do you know the points for Revenant Cavalry?
They are 70 each.
They are. Revenant Warrior. Do they have any special other than undead or uncaring?
So they have hand weapon and shield, but they don't get shielding because of undead. So they just have undead and uncaring.
Okay. Skeleton Champion. What can it do?
Oh, like territory-wise?
Yeah.
You get him in the Cursed Burial Ground or the Necropolis, whichever one you pick, and then you also get him in the, I want to say the Catacombs. Which one?
But I'll give you that one because it's, okay. Necromancer level 2. How many points?
100.
Excellent. And Skeletal Ballista, base size?
50x100.
It is
50 millimeters x 100
yeah.
millimeters.
Wraith, what special ability does it have?
Oh, the most annoying one in the game, Shadow Form. Wraith is so overpowered.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely. The Corpse Fire, what can it do when it activates?
It has Fire Breath, so it can shoot gobs of fire.
But it's specific to when it activates.
Oh, specific to when it activates?
Yeah.
Shoot, I don't know.
Generation, okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
You got me.
The Vampire, how many health does it have?
It has, I want to say, it's either 3 or 5. I'm going to go with 3.
5, unfortunately.
Ah.
And the final question, Vampire, what is its special ability that it starts with?
So it has Stone Gaze, it also has Spellcaster and Discorporate.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. That's 3 minutes, but not 10 again, unfortunately.
No, I'm rusty. Much like the undead.
I feel like, yeah.
No, I'll get him next time. Next time I will redeem myself.
Okay, well,
I'll study up. Hit the
I was to say, come on, you're in academia, so I expect full so never mind.
Reputation and stuff, man.
We'll live. No, thank you. And so we move to the final section that we all love, and Chris never goes away because Chris is my all-seeing oracle when it comes to silly questions, and I have asked him for some help on silly questions.
Oh.
So he has sent me a list of silly questions that I can use for Oathwire, because let's be honest, guys, mine are a bit shit. So here we go. It's during a royal hunt. Your arrow misses terribly and hits the king's favourite hound. What do you do?
Okay, so I'm going to point off into the woods off to the side and yell that there's a mage there, and then he cast Afflict on me. And I had -1 shoot. And that's the reason that my arrow so badly missed and killed the king's favorite hound. Is not because I'm a terrible marksman. Not at all. It's because there is a wizard hexing me, and that wizard is conveniently also discorporated. So they're probably a vampire. So actually, the king has much bigger things to worry about than me having killed his hounds. He should actually be grateful to me that I was able to expose the presence of a vampire in his kingdom, because now he can get rid of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've basically just done the kingdom a massive favour by killing his favourite hound. So
yeah, I should be rewarded, to be honest. Maybe a higher up position in court, or maybe a captaincy. I'm not greedy. I'll take what he gives me.
Yeah, you'll take gold or whatever. You're happy.
So
whatever reward the most generous king deems me worthy of.
that's a very good answer, my friend. I like it. Well, I'd like to say thank you again. It's been cracking to have you on again, and I know you're going to be back. You're going to be co-host with me and with Michael, so we're going to have you on regularly to discuss all your favourite games, guys and girls. And you're
stuck with me, folks.
Yeah, you're definitely stuck with him, and you're stuck with me. I'd just like to thank everybody out there that supports us. I'm not begging for money. There are guys out there that support me on Patreon. Well, not me. They supported Chris. And they're supporting Oathwire, which is amazing. The
server fees don't pay themselves.
No, and I was like, I was surprised on one of the prices came out, and I was like, how much for SoundCloud? And I was like, okay, I didn't understand it was that expensive. But there is some other bits and pieces which I probably should have covered in the new bit. I've had through my own. I've had a logo designed by a professional logo designer.
Nice.
Out of my own pocket, because I just thought, why not? Oathwire needs something out there. So Chris handed over the Patreon to me, and everybody is still supporting me out on that and supporting Oathwire, which I really appreciate. And, but I put some tiers in there, and there is now a tier to get a mug and a tier to get a sticker. I think,
nice.
So it's not a massive amount of money, guys. You don't have to do it. I've got the cost covered, but if you want an Oathwire, some Oathwire merch, it feels like I'm begging. I'd see it on YouTube and I cringe, and I'm very British about that sort of thing. It's like, oh, but it's there. I want guys to go and take it. I have released a bit of some of this stuff. I'm trying to stay ahead, so they got the guys on the Patreon would have already had access to listening to Michael. I've interviewed Kev Dillmore. I'm going to put that up early for those guys because they're supporting it, so why not? So I'm trying to do that. They have some input into the sticker design and stuff, and I'm going to be interviewing Kev again, and I'm going to ask on Patreon for everybody to give me some questions that you want to ask about painting figures for Oathmark, Frostgrave, or any other of the North Star Rangers. And I'll pick
if you're not familiar with Kev Dalmore, look him up. The man is a genius. He's a savant.
Yeah, it's a super interesting interview. I really mean that, guy. It really, he said some things that I was surprised with. Just he's got his heroes as well out in the world that are painting today. He's brought a lot of the guys out there that are big out in painting. So in the painting world, as we know it, professional painters, he brought them up. But yeah, super interesting. So that'll be up on Patreon to go and have a listen to. This episode will be out before the one that Kev's done. So go and have a look. Don't give, do give. I will be grateful. Oathwire will be grateful. The only thing it's going to do is keep Oathwire on the air. And if we get enough pennies and bits and pieces, I might get some microphones and stuff like that to improve the sound quality, because I know my sound quality is pretty poor sometimes. So that's the only thing it's going to go into. I ain't going to be going to Bermuda next week through it. So, but yeah, check it out or don't check it out. I don't know what to say. I feel embarrassed asking. But yeah, thank you guys. And I will say good night to you, Robert.
Oh, good night to you as well, man.
Yeah. And I'll say good night, good afternoon, and good morning to everybody out there.